Have you ever wondered if your thoughts are truly yours, or if you are just repeating what the crowd wants you to say? Nietzsche believed most people live as sheep without ever realizing they are trapped. Most people never notice when their thoughts stop being their own. From the moment you are born, the herd is waiting to shape you. Parents, teachers, friends, media, and culture all whisper the same message. Do not stand out. Do not question too much. Follow the path already walked. It feels safe, but that safety is the first layer of the prison. Nietzsche once said, "Morality itself is nothing more than the herd instinct in the individual." He meant that what most people call being good is often just the habit of blending in. You think you are making choices, but in reality, the choices were made for you long before you arrived. The herd does not need chains to keep you in line. It uses approval. The smile of a parent when you repeat the right answer, the applause of a teacher when you follow the rules, the nod of society when you fit in. Approval feels warm, and rejection feels cold. Over time, you begin to chase the warmth and avoid the cold, until your mind itself is conditioned to move only where the herd points. The hidden prison is not outside of you, it is inside. It is the voice that whispers, "What will people think?" Nietzsche saw that the herd survives by copying itself. If everyone repeats the same opinions, no one has to risk the pain of standing alone. And so people parrot phrases they half believe, adopt morals they never questioned, and live by borrowed values. Think about how often you have agreed with something just to keep the peace, or stayed silent because your opinion would make you stand out. In that moment, you were not yourself. You were a sheep, protecting your place in the flock. The truth no one tells you is that herd thinking feels comfortable because it saves energy. Independent thought requires effort. It requires courage. It requires the risk of being wrong and being laughed at. Most people cannot stand that kind of tension, so they surrender their freedom for the illusion of peace. Nietzsche called this surrender a kind of sickness, not a sickness of the body, but of the spirit. The herd cures the anxiety of freedom by handing you ready-made beliefs, and you accept them without realizing what you have lost. But here is the secret. The mask of belonging never fully fits. Deep down, the individual feels the weight of the chains. You may sense it when you hesitate to speak your truth, when you follow a path you never chose, or when you silence an instinct that feels alive in you. That unease is the sign of the prison. It is not that society forces you to obey. It is that you have learned to police yourself. Nietzsche wanted you to see the herd for what it is, a silent jailer that works through comfort, through smiles, through the soft pressure of being normal. Once you recognize this, you begin to see the cracks in the walls, and in those cracks lies the first glimpse of freedom, the moment where you realize you were never meant to be a sheep at all. Why do you care so much about what people think of you? That question cuts deeper than most are willing to admit. Approval feels like oxygen. You post something and wait for the likes. You speak in a group and wait for the nods. You share an idea and hold your breath, hoping no one laughs. Approval seems harmless, even motivating, but Nietzsche warned that it is a hidden form of control. The surest way to corrupt someone, he said, is to make them value sameness over difference. And that is exactly what approval does. From childhood, you are trained to crave it. The smile of a parent when you behave, the gold star in class when you follow instructions, the acceptance of peers when you repeat what they already believe. Each time you receive it, the brain learns the same lesson. Approval equals safety. Rejection equals pain. Over time, you stop asking yourself what you truly want and start asking what will get you accepted. You become fluent in the language of the herd. You learn when to nod, when to laugh, when to keep quiet, and without noticing, you trade authenticity for applause. Here is the truth no one tells you. Approval is addictive. The more you get it, the more you need it. And like any addiction, it never satisfies for long. One compliment fades, and you need another. One moment of recognition disappears, and you search for the next. It begins to shape your choices. You dress for approval. You speak for approval. You even start to think for approval. What feels like freedom is actually dependence. Your life is no longer yours. It belongs to the crowd. Nietzsche saw this as one of the deepest forms of weakness. The person who cannot bear rejection is chained, even if those chains are invisible. The herd does not need to punish you because you punish yourself with the fear of standing out. Think about it. How many times have you swallowed your words because they were unpopular? How many times have you done something not because you wanted to, but because you feared the silence if you didn't? That is not independence. That is sheep thinking in disguise. The irony is that most people convince themselves they are unique while living entirely for validation. They adopt trends, repeat slogans, signal virtue, and call it individuality. But Nietzsche would laugh at this. He knew that true independence begins when you no longer need the herd to echo back your worth. When you can stand alone, misunderstood, even disliked, and still trust your own judgment. That is the moment you break free from the cage. The cage of approval is seductive because it feels safe, but it is a false safety. The cost is your spirit, your originality, your voice. To escape it, you must confront the fear of rejection head on. Let them disagree. Let them disapprove. Let them look at you strangely, because only then will you know that you are no longer performing for applause. You are living by your own fire. And that, Nietzsche believed, is the first step to becoming more than a sheep. What do you lose when you spend your life thinking like everyone else? At first, it does not seem like much. You fit in. You are safe. You avoid conflict. But Nietzsche saw the hidden price, and it is far higher than most are willing to pay. The cost of sheep thinking is not just that you blend into the crowd. The cost is that you never become who you could have been. Every time you trade authenticity for comfort, passion for safety, and independence for approval, you bury a piece of yourself. Greatness does not die in sudden blows. It dies quietly every time you choose the herd over your own voice. Nietzsche gave this a haunting image. The last man. The last man is content, safe, and satisfied with small pleasures. He avoids risk, avoids challenge, and avoids pain. On the surface, he is comfortable, but inside, he is hollow, spiritually dead, because the fire of becoming something greater has been extinguished. Sheep thinking convinces you that this is freedom. You are free from danger, free from judgment, free from risk. But this is an illusion. In reality, you are only free the way a caged bird is free from the storm. The wings exist, but they are never used. Here is the truth no one tells you. The herd does not simply protect you. It shrinks you. It takes the sharp edges of your individuality and sands them down until nothing unique remains. It tells you to play small, to avoid making waves, to be realistic, and you obey, because obeying feels safe. But the price of this safety is mediocrity. You never attempt the mountain because the valley feels comfortable enough. You never say the words that burn inside you, because silence keeps the peace. You never dare to live on your own terms, because conformity pays in approval. Think about the times you wanted something greater and silenced yourself. Maybe it was the dream you did not pursue because it was not practical. Maybe it was the opinion you swallowed because it was not popular. Maybe it was the risk you avoided because it was not safe. Each of those moments feels small, but together they form a pattern, a life of playing small until the smallness becomes who you are. This is the cost Nietzsche wanted you to see. Sheep thinking does not just limit your actions, it erodes your spirit. The irony is that the herd praises this kind of life. It calls it maturity, responsibility, or being realistic. But Nietzsche saw it for what it truly is: surrender. Surrender of potential, surrender of greatness, surrender of the self. He believed that most people never even realize what they have lost because the comfort blinds them. They think they are free because no one is chasing them, but in truth, they are prisoners of their own fear. To follow the herd is to live safely and die slowly. To think like a sheep is to sacrifice the extraordinary for the ordinary. And that is the most dangerous trade of all, because it convinces you that you never had wings in the first place. Breaking away from the flock does not start with the world around you. It starts with the world inside you. The most dangerous herd is not the crowd outside your door, but the voice in your own head that repeats what you have been taught to think. Nietzsche called this the great task of self-overcoming, the process of tearing away the layers of borrowed beliefs until what is left is truly your own. Most people never even attempt it because they do not realize how many of their thoughts are inherited. They think they are free, but their words are recycled, their morals are borrowed, and their choices are second-hand. Here's the first reveal. Herd thoughts hide in the phrases you use every day. When you catch yourself saying, "That is just the way things are," or "Everyone knows this is true," you are not speaking from your own mind. You are repeating the echo of the flock. Nietzsche warned that these unexamined truths are the most dangerous. They make you feel certain without ever asking if the certainty is yours. To break away, you must slow down and question. Why do I believe this? Where did it come from? Who benefits if I keep believing it? At first, this feels uncomfortable, even disloyal, because you are pulling at the threads of the fabric that held your life together. But the discomfort is proof you are beginning to see clearly. The second reveal is that most people mistake morality for truth. The herd tells you what is good and what is evil, but Nietzsche showed that these labels are often tools of control. What if what you call good is only what keeps you compliant? What if what you call evil is simply the courage to live differently? When you start to ask these questions, you risk standing alone. That fear of isolation is what keeps most people sheep forever. But if you can endure that fear, if you can accept being misunderstood or judged, you are already freer than 90% of the crowd. Breaking away does not mean rejecting everything the herd says. It means no longer taking it at face value. You test it, you weigh it against your own experience. You decide if it belongs to you or if it was planted in you. This process feels like stripping off masks one by one. Some masks were put there by parents, others by schools, others by society itself. Each time you remove one, you feel exposed, but you also feel lighter. The final reveal is that your own voice is not found in rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is found in creating standards that are yours alone. When you can say, This is what I believe, even if no one agrees. You have stepped outside the flock. Nietzsche saw this as the birth of real strength, the moment a person stops living as a reflection and begins living as a source. Breaking away is not easy. It feels like walking into the wilderness with no guide. But in that wilderness, you discover the one thing the herd can never give you: yourself. An independent mind is not loud rebellion. It is not shouting against the crowd or breaking rules just to prove you are different. Nietzsche saw real independence as something far more difficult and far more powerful. It is the ability to create your own standards and live by them, even when the herd does not approve, even when no one is watching. Most people confuse rebellion with freedom, but rebellion is still defined by the herd. If all you do is oppose what they say, your identity still depends on them. Independence begins when their voices no longer decide the shape of your life. Here is the first reveal. True strength is quiet. The person who needs constant approval or constant opposition is still chained to the herd. The independent spirit respects their own judgment more than applause or criticism. They can stand in silence and trust themselves. Nietzsche believed that this kind of self-trust is what separates the few who rise from the many who remain sheep. Most people will never reach it because it requires learning to carry the weight of being misunderstood. The herd offers comfort in exchange for conformity. Independence offers no comfort, but it gives you dignity. The second reveal is that independence is creative, not reactive. A sheep follows, and a rebel resists, but a free spirit creates. They set their own values. They define success in their own language. They are willing to risk being called strange, arrogant, or even immoral if it means staying true to their vision. Nietzsche admired those who could carve new paths because they showed the highest courage. It is easy to follow, and it is easy to resist, but it is difficult to invent. That is why the independent mind is rare, and why it shines so brightly when it appears. The third reveal is that the independent mind is not cold or detached. It is alive. To think for yourself does not mean rejecting all connection. It means choosing your connections consciously, not out of fear or pressure. The independent spirit does not despise others, but they refuse to shrink themselves to be accepted. This balance is what Nietzsche considered strength with integrity. You do not need the herd to echo your worth, but you can still walk among them without losing yourself. The final reveal is that independence is a lifelong task. You never break from the herd once and for all. At every stage of life, the pressure to conform returns, just in new forms. Nietzsche's challenge is to keep choosing yourself again and again, to keep testing your beliefs, to keep asking if your life is truly yours. The herd will always try to pull you back with comfort and safety. But once you have tasted the dignity of standing on your own, the cage of approval no longer tempts you the same way. The independent mind is not about standing above others. It is about becoming your own shepherd instead of a sheep. It is about guiding yourself with values you created, walking a path you respect, and living a life that is yours. That, Nietzsche believed, is the highest form of power, the kind that no herd can ever take away.